So here it is in a nutshell. However, it's not as simple as it might look. Let me share you some of my thoughts through the process. Welcome to my channel, my name is Mikko. The most important thing to remember if you want to draw or paint more loose is that you should give up most of the ways you've approached creating visual art. By that, I mean the methods and working habits. For example, in traditional approach, we usually start by creating some sort of underdrawing to give guidelines, proportions, and so on. In other words, create boundaries for the subject. So to make this work, we need to abandon the ship and find another pathway. If you share the same passion as I do and like to focus on portraits, I highly recommend first to learn the It is simple, and I would say the most efficient way to learn the key features of human head. There are a bunch of videos and articles that you can find on the Loomis method, but as you already see from the process, I don't use it. To be able to break or bend the rules, and in some cases simply to ignore them, we have to know the rules. As a matter of fact, creating something like this is more or less a process of learning to break the rules. You can see that I don't start by sketching or use grids. That's simply because I know where everything is approximately located, and in human anatomy, everything has specific placement. Imagine if our facial anatomy would be something like a Picasso painting, where, for example, placement of eye would be totally individual. Same with nose and mouth. They could be anywhere on the face. Now that would be a nightmare, but thank God it's not the case. What has more meaning here? Shapes. Abstract form. But why? To get to the bottom of it, first, we need to think about what shapes really are. I personally would simplify them, the appearance of value in the structure. If we start breaking it down, we would like to know why or what causes that appearance. First, a simple answer that can be explained from a physical phenomena. Light interaction with the environment. Every value and color we see is caused by light. Photons passing through, colliding, or being redirected by matter, and we observe the leftovers of that interaction. That's our visual world when we open our eyes. Then the second part, which is how we experience those shapes. How do we see them through our eyes? And what emotion it triggers in us once our brains process it. How do these shapes appear to us? Sounds a bit too much? Well, it can be if you think it as wide as it is. But we can always narrate down to a specific area that we want to abuse or manipulate. To put it as a simple thought, creating shapes with different meanings. Looking at this drawing, for example, my idea is to give some shapes a meaning of physical appearance. We can call that realistic form, and others a subjective appearance. With that, I mean that the idea of the shape is more relevant than what it is made of. An abstract form. It can give the work a specific mood, some sense of movement, some fractures here and there to represent the idea of fading away. Will it give subconsciously the feeling of time passing by? Adding colors, what do they trigger in you? My idea and approach with this is to work simultaneously in both ways. Two very different worlds collide in this. But what does the physical part mean? What is realistic form? Like already mentioned, light has few ways it interacts with us. Shades and shadows are the appearance we see, but they are final result of much more fascinating process. To scratch the surface a bit, we can simplify it to the material's ability to absorb light and to reflect it. And while we're at it, let's simplify that to even more understandable form. Material's ability to remove light and material's ability to remove shadow. Once we start to dive in deeper than that, eventually one can understand that light and matter interact in a very specific and predictable way. The most complicated part, that is the rendering of the shades in realistic form, becomes the easiest part. Eventually, you can reach an understanding that if you are watching an object, person, anything in this world, you are watching the interaction of light and matter. And paint, graphite, charcoal, they are also materials interacting with light. So my technical process is more or less just moving material into shapes in a way that they just reconstruct the interaction of light to match the reality. Working in this way has enabled me to put more time and effort to think about how I express the portrait, thinking about the abstract ideas and how they can be combined to create something that might be fascinating for the viewer. However, because I'm the viewer whose vision is composing the image, it might turn out that other people do not share the vision. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I can only hope that the final result resonates in some way to others. This is the problem that every artist faces. In my opinion, I would say the more you can cut down your process in different sections, where each of them have their own specific needs, allows you to focus and develop your skills more further as a whole unified process. I never went to art school, yet I did find a way to make a living in visual arts. In 2007, I had the opportunity to start working as a tattoo artist, and this made it possible to pursue other forms as well, not to mention the ability to travel around the world, work next to amazing artists, and visit museums and galleries. This might be the reason why my approach to visual art is slightly different. This approach has its benefits, since everything you learn circles around a phenomena that can be predicted, measured, and described. Not saying that art schools are bad, far from it. This is just more comparison of the process of growing as an artist. You see, if you get stuck with one point of view, eventually as the years go by, it will show up in the art you produce. It becomes much harder to find new and fresh ideas to explore. Thinking outside of the box requires to change your perspective. I've created a website where I wrote articles about scientific discoveries that are related to what our visual reality is made of. There's also my blog, which is more point of view type of stuff, how I explore these ideas just by drawing or painting. There is also a tips and tricks section which consists of simplifying the drawing process. You can find information about my portrait tutorial there as well. I will continue adding more stuff there in the near future, but so far it already contains a lot of information to explore. whatchalookingat.com. So be sure to check it out and let me know if you find it interesting or useful. Follow me on Instagram. I have 2 accounts there. One is for this project alone, and the second is more about me as a tattoo artist. I will start to focus a bit more on the content of those as well, now that I've managed to break the ice and had the courage to finally start this channel. In case if you are wondering what materials I am using in these, I put a list that you can check from the link on the description. There is also the link for the video course if you are interested in checking that as well. Now that we have covered a lot of the thoughts and ideas behind the process, let's take a look how the image has been progressing. We can see that it starts to look more like a photograph. This effect comes when you work more loose in the beginning, without creating boundaries. It is still quite amazing to me to see how little sharp edges you need to apply to increase the accuracy of the image, and how little it takes to finish a drawing. Once the lighting conditions have been reconstructed, it is time to go back and focus on the abstract shapes. Choosing the colors for the work can be tricky if you play it by the ear. I can show you how I plan it. First, choose 2 main colors that you want to use. Throw them in there, create another layer with just random black and gray values on the areas the portrait appears. Now, keep throwing more random stuff with the 2 main colors you chose. And then choose 3rd color for an impact. For this, I chose yellow. There is no need to make this more complicated. I find that if you keep it in 3, you control the mood of the work more efficiently. Like I said before, I try to be as specific with each element already when I'm planning the drawing. If you are still watching this and managed to suffer all the way to this point, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, share your thoughts about this and leave a comment. Feel free to also like this video. Don't forget to share this with someone as well. I promise, these videos will get better as I get more comfortable with this platform. Hope to see you in my next video. Bye.